Kathy Iconis here with Kibio Chat, and I am excited today to have the guys from Chargeover here to give us a demo of their product. It's been several years since I've seen it, and I know there's been a lot of changes, advancements, and all of that, so I'm very excited to see what all you guys have in store. I will be looking at the Q&A panel, so if you guys have any questions throughout that, just put a little question in there, and I'll butt in or help take care of things and that sort of stuff in the Q&A area. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks.
Super excited and happy to be back on the QBO chat this week to show off some of the new things that are in Chargeover. Certainly hope that everybody out there is doing well amongst everything that's going on in the crazy world today, and rolling with the punches that are being dealt towards many of the businesses out there. I'm Ryan. I'm one of the co-founders at Chargeover. Founded Chargeover, which is a subscription billing platform, almost 10 years ago now. So we've been around for a while. We've been integrated with QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, and that involved in that whole ecosystem for the entire time as well. So we bring a lot of recurring invoicing, scheduled payments, some revenue recognition reporting, kind of all on steroids to the QuickBooks ecosystem. And we can handle everything from, managing the transactions, syncing those into QuickBooks. Chris, my colleague who's on the call, will jump into a product demo here in a few moments and kind of run through everything that's available. But we have quite a large customer base. We have SaaS companies using this to manage their recurring billing. We have some voice over IP, telco type providers that are sending usage information into Chargeover. Accountants, pro advisors are using Chargeover to manage some of the recurring billing that they have going on in their firms. So it's a pretty flexible platform, offers a lot of functionality, and brings a ton of value automating many of the steps to businesses. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris to get started on a product demo. And if there's any questions, definitely feel free to drop those into the Q&A section on Zoom here.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. So this, what everyone can see right now, this is the dashboard. This is what it looks like when you log into Chargeover. We do support multiple currencies. As you can see here, it's not just US dollars. So I have US dollars, Canadian dollars, pounds, euros, Australian dollars enabled within my account. It's going to show you, what you invoiced this month versus what you collected, your number of new customers, what you invoiced in the previous month versus collected, and any cancellations that you had. What I'll do here is I'll create a planner of product. So it'll be like our line items on our invoices. From there, I will create a customer, we'll create a subscription, I'll invoice it, and I'll pay it. And I'll show you what that would look like from the customer standpoint as well. And then we can take a look and see what all that would look like when it syncs over to QuickBooks as well.
Chris, I got a quick question on this customer stats page. So because we're seeing the different currencies on there, does it roll up to the amount on top, or are they different sections?
For like totals?
Yeah, well, it just invoice this month. Is that just US invoice
That
this
would
month?
just be US dollars invoice this month.
Okay.
So you can see down here in euros, I did have some separate.
Well, I'm just not used to dealing with multiple currencies, so I didn't know, how that would, if it was rolling up or not.
It is.
Yeah, little clarification there too. It depends on how the business is operating. If they're actually operating in those individual currencies, we track those separately.
Cool.
Versus if they're using a payment gateway that's handling the currency conversion, that would just all be shown in US dollars.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. This is actually my third demo today. The first one was with a gal in Russia, and the second one was with a company in Toronto. So we definitely have customers kind of all over the world for sure. But awesome. Yeah. So first thing I'll do here is go to products, and we'll create a new product. Oop, I need to log in here quick. There we go. Ryan's intro was just too long by a second, probably.
It was my question.
Perfect. So we'll go to products and we'll go to new product and we can do monthly VoIP service and we'll put in a description. A couple things to note here is the description and the pricing can always change. So you can have a different description from customer to customer, subscription, invoice to invoice, and same thing with pricing. So you can always edit that on the fly, but what I'm putting in here now, these would be like the default settings whenever this product is added to a subscription or an invoice. So let's go ahead and do flat pricing. This would be if it's the same price every month. So it's just like, think like Spotify, it's just that flat amount that they're charging you every month. Unit pricing this is popular if it's like, well, it could be if it's like a VoIP service. If there's any sort of like usage-based billing, we have quite a few customers that will use our API to pump in their usage data, which we would be storing in Chargeover, and then every month or week, depending on how they have the subscription set up, the subscription would automatically create that invoice and run the payment based off what that usage was over that time period. We also support volume-based pricing. A good example of this is Chargeover's pricing. So our first tier is 0 to 50 active customers is $65. So we don't care in this pricing model if you're at 2 active customers or 50. It's just going to be the flat $65 a month. And then we also support tiered-based pricing as well. Which would be, it's pretty similar to unit-based pricing, but once you get to the next tier, you're charging a different amount per unit at that new tier level, if that makes sense.
Kind of like our tax system.
Exactly. You also can set up base fees, so no matter what, it would charge that, as well as minimum fees. So if the usage didn't hit a certain amount, you could have it so that it automatically bumped them up to whatever that minimum fee is.
Cool.
So for example, here, let's go ahead with flat pricing and we can do, let's do $200. And I'm going to actually add a one-time setup fee of $100 tied to this product as well. So let's go ahead and save this. Awesome. So next let's go to customers and we'll create a new customer. Oh, let's do this. Enter the same address here I think I use for everyone. I think all the customers in my demo account here live within a half a block of each other. Perfect. So we created this customer in Chargeover. Once I hit that create button, that would have automatically synced this customer over into QuickBooks. If we need to, if they moved or something, you can always edit the billing address, change contact. You can actually add as many contacts as you want. So if there was someone else at Kathy Co that also wanted to receive the email communication, you can add them as a new contact and have it so, let's say CEO, CTO, CFO are all receiving the email communication for invoices and payments, etc.
Nice.
Cool.
So if we created the customer first in Chargeover, would it then also sync over?
Yep. So this customer would be in QuickBooks right now.
Well, I mean, like if we did it in QuickBooks first instead of Chargeover first.
So we can pull customers from QuickBooks, but it's not a constant sync back and forth.
Okay. So it's the preferred method is we're doing everything in here, and then it just does going over to QuickBooks for the accounting part of it.
Correct. We do have a two-way customer sync though.
Yeah. But
cool.
Yep.
Like I said, it makes more sense.
Out of the box, we will pull back payments as well. So, we sync that in real time. So if you mark an invoice as paid or comes through the bank feed and gets applied to an invoice, that comes back into Chargeover.
And it sounds like too, if you have a little bit more of like a sales department versus accounting or something like that, they can go in and kind of set this up versus necessarily the accountant having to do that.
Definitely.
Okay.
And accountants love this because they can all, I mean, you can also limit what people can and cannot do and what they can and cannot see. So you don't have to give the sales reps access to everything, because why would you, I mean, who would probably want to do that? So yeah, you can definitely limit those as well. And I can show you that in just a minute here too.
Sweet.
Awesome. So next, let's go to subscriptions, and we will create a new subscription, and we can add our monthly VoIP service. Cool. You can see it's going to bring across the description as well as my pricing. But let's say I'm actually going to not charge them the setup fee, and I'm actually going to charge them $400 a month. We can do that. And adjusting the pricing here or the description would not change the default pricing or description that we set up on that product. So if I added this again, it's going to have the original pricing here. Cool. We also can prorate. So if my test company here that I have, if we were building everyone on, like, let's say the first of the month, we could do like service build in advance from May 7th to May 31st. And then you'd have the option to create a prorated invoice now for that amount, or you can actually have that prorated charge tacked on to their next full invoice. So June 1st, it would show the monthly VoIP service and whatever the prorated amount was, plus that full month of service. And it would all be on one invoice.
That's cool.
Awesome.
I mean, there's a million different ways that people can bill, and you guys are covering a lot.
For sure. That is the goal. Absolutely. Another thing we can do here. So even though I took off the setup fee on this line item, I could add it as a total separate item. A reason some people will do this is it gives you a separate description here. So maybe less of a setup fee and more of like an implementation fee. So if there's like some onboarding that goes involved, they could list that here. We could edit the pricing here if we wanted. Let's say I'm actually going to charge $100. We could do that. And then the thing to note here is there's this option for number of cycles to skip, or number of free cycles. So if we wanted to give them 1 month free or something, you could do that. For the setup fee, implementation fee, any sort of one-time cost, there's this option for numbers of billing cycles before this expires. So by me having a 1 here, this setup fee is only going to be on the first invoice. And then this $100 would automatically fall off. And going forward, it would just bill them that $400 every month, or whatever the frequency is. Awesome. So down here, we can select how often we want to invoice them. I'm going to leave it at monthly. We'll hit continue. That's going to create the subscription. So the next step from here is, when do I want to invoice them? So if I wanted, I could always delay the invoicing out. So if they were going to go live on like June 1st, we weren't doing anything until June 1st, I could delay the invoicing out. And basically the subscription is just going to hang out and charge over. And then when that date rolls around, it's automatically create that invoice, send it to the customer. For our example here, I'm going to invoice it now. Perfect. So this is going to pull up our default invoice due template. These are customizable. I have another one in here that I've customized. Just so you can see kind of what that looks like. But it gives you a good example of kind of what the customer would see. They'd be able to click the link to open it up in a new window. So this is my invoice here. My logo is just a picture of me. My company information here, St. Paul Company. And then I do have a custom invoice number here of STP. And then my customer's information. And then we're going to show whatever we are actually billing for. We are integrated with around 50 different payment gateways. So depending on what gateway or gateways they have enabled within Chargeover, we'll show only the appropriate payment options. So let's go ahead and click to make a payment. I'm going to pay with the credit card. One thing to note here is this note right here. So I have it enabled in my account. So I'm charging a 3% processing fee for anyone that uses credit cards. But if I went back and went to pay with ACH or eCheck, I'm actually not charging a fee. That has become more and more popular. So that's why I leave this enabled in my demo account here, just so people can see that that is an option if it's something that they're interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and pay it. It will automatically email them a receipt. If they want to see a PDF, print it, email it to someone else, they can. It's going to be pretty obvious that they paid. If we go back into Chargeover now and refresh this subscription, we will see that $515 is invoiced, nothing is due. And by default, my next invoice date is a month from today, so June 7th. At that time, I'm going to create the next invoice, and I would immediately run a payment using this default payment method that we stored on file here.
Did you store that on file, or they stored it?
So we automatically store the payment method. If you want to give an option for auto pay, we can enable like a checkbox.
Oh, cool.
So they could opt in or opt out. And then we can have that checkbox either checked or unchecked by default.
Cool. And someone asked, can you add payment terms in the invoice?
So like net 30, net
Yeah.
10, 20. Yeah, so you can. My default in my account, I'm pretty sure here is set up to be, net 7. That's interesting. Yep. So, and if there's something that they need that isn't here by default, it's super easy for us to add different terms. Net 7 is actually not enabled by default.
Okay. And it's probably something too on the invoice layout. You would just customize that.
Yep.
Okay.
If we jump over here, you can see what the actual invoice looks like in Chargeover too.
Invoice terms right there, guys.
Yep. We also can enable like editable invoice dates too. Obviously by default, it's going to be whatever the date was, but if it needed to be changed, it could.
Now on the payment gateways, are you guys still connected to the Intuit payment network?
Yes.
That was like, I still think you guys are one of the only ones that are, and you've been from so early on, which is, it's a huge benefit, I believe, in my opinion.
I agree. From like a sales standpoint for Chargeover, I always like it when I hear someone's using QuickBooks and Intuit because I know that I can get them up and running very fast. We can actually pull customers directly from QuickBooks Online into Chargeover, and then to add Intuit payments as a payment option, it's actually just like one additional click.
Because then it doesn't like in QuickBooks, it's still doing the auto figuring out stuff or whatever. Probably. I'd have to like look at that. But it just, yeah, instead of having to set up a different system like Stripe or whatever, and then dealing with that being deposited into your QuickBooks, it already being part of the QuickBooks thing, payment area, it's just got to be so much easier.
That's where we see a lot of businesses handling subscription billing or recurring billing today directly in their payment gateway because they signed up with authorize.net or whoever because they had this capability. But it's very disjointed and disconnected in there. If there's no syncing to QuickBooks, there's a lot of manual entry there, or you're doing the journal entries on a monthly basis and losing a lot of transactional detail or having to kind of jump in multiple places.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think every accountant that's dealt with Stripe or any of those, it's just, trying to go back and get it. I mean, I have a Zap set up for my Stripe stuff coming in to QBO. And, if there's an error on the Zap or whatever, like I have to go back and fix it. I don't have enough transactions for it to matter too much, but it can be really annoying. And the more and more you have, it's going to be really annoying.
Yeah. We're just onboarding a firm in Canada that's working with a customer that has somewhere around 1,500 monthly recurring transactions a month.
Wow.
And that's been eating up a massive amount of their time. If you talk about one step in the process not working, you have to go back, find the payment details, update that, or like worst case, potentially reach out to the customer and ask them for a new credit card, which is a huge time.
Yeah, it's a pain. And with all the limitations, like you can't in QuickBooks, you can't just say, can you enter this for recurring payments? I have to go and ask for the information to be able to enter it in um, to the system, whereas you guys have that option, you know? And I know you're going to get into more of this, but like having the history and being able to share more of the, you know, do you have a portal still?
Yep, we do have a customer portal.
Yeah, so that they have a better understanding. I mean, there's so many limitations when it comes to QuickBooks invoicing that especially in the subscription kind of model that, you know, we definitely need something else like this.
Yeah. A big one is like dunning too. So like what happens when an invoice is, or like a payment fails or it hasn't been paid after 10 days.
Yes.
So you can set up rules in Chargeover, so we're automatically rerunning those payments, resending invoices. I mean, the idea is to automate as much of the AR side as possible.
I mean, we get little alerts in QBO now, but it's not necessarily like you could skip over them very easily. How about that? And take like a month or two going, hey, wait, it never went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a process you want to be skipping over when it involves cash flow for your business.
No, not at all.
Awesome. So I actually do have a QuickBooks account connected here too. So if we refresh this, hopefully I'm still logged in. Yep. Awesome. So we can go to our invoices and you'll see that the invoice was created for Kathy Co. And it was paid. We had the monthly VoIP service, the setup fee, and the credit card convenience fee. And we actually be able to see the payment that was made to it too.
Nice. And you have it going to underdeposited funds?
Yep.
Sweet.
Awesome. Another thing to note here is you can see that I have two different invoice numbers set up. So I have this MPLS and SDP. That's actually because I have two different brands enabled within my Chargeover account. So if they are, do have like two different entities or something that they're working under, you actually can set up like totally different logos, totally different billing addresses. You can have the invoices sent from totally different emails. So I have St. Paul company and Minneapolis company. And I actually have separate logos for each. Both, oddly enough, are just pictures of me.
You just like looking at yourself.
It's very possible that is the reason that it's like that. But definitely a cool feature that we're seeing people make use of a lot more and more.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I could do Iconos Group and QBO Chat.
Exactly. Awesome. So dunning and reminders here, briefly touched about that. But yeah, these are the settings of like, what do you want Chargeover to automatically do when an invoice is created and it's not paid right away? So you can have it so we're automatically retrying failed credit card payments, retry on failed ACH payments. If it's like a tokenized payment from Stripe, you could have us retrying the tokenized payments, as well as just resending invoices if there's no payment method on file. We can set up, there's some email templates that'll come preloaded within your Chargeover account. All those can be customized and duplicated. One thing that we see that is definitely becoming more and more popular as well is people will set up like multiple different like invoice due, invoice past due templates. So maybe the first template that's sent out, like, hey, your invoice is past due, click the link below, no big deal, please pay. Where the third one's like, please pay right now, we will cut off service. Can definitely do that. Another thing that we're seeing more and more of as well is people will set up so we're canceling subscriptions automatically. This is popular, I would say, with like a lot of SaaS companies. So they would have it so a lot of the times we're going to be trying like 4 payments before we'd automatically cancel the subscription. And then what they'll do is they'll set it up so Chargeover is actually sending like a webhook to their application to actually cut off service automatically. People pay pretty fast when all of a sudden they don't have access to something.
Yeah.
Cool. And one other note here to Maria's question about the payment terms on invoices, all of these reminders do respect those payment terms. So if you have a customer that's on net 30, net 60, those payment reminders will still go out for customers that are on paying by invoice. They don't necessarily just have to be on an automatic payment method to receive these. So those notifications can go out to customers when their net terms period lapses. So, you know, on day 31 of a net 30 invoice, that reminder can go out automatically without having to intervene or set that up or send it yourself.
Perfect. The next thing I was going to touch on here would be admin users and admin roles. So we do not limit you on the number of admin users you want to have. Really, anyone who's going to be using Chargeover at all should be set up as an admin user. Big reason, they'll have their own email address, their own password that they can log in with. Another big reason is everything in Chargeover is like audited. So if something was to be changed, invoice was, let's say, voided, or maybe there was a refund, you'd be able to see what was changed on the invoice, what time, and then it's going to show you who's logged in and did it and what their IP address is. Another great thing about the admin users is the admin roles that you would be assigning to each admin user. If we go to add a new admin role here, you can kind of see all the different options here of what you can allow people to see and do within Chargeover. A popular one here, if accountants are setting up like a Chargeover instance for a client, is they would be the only one to manage, for example, the Chargeover billing. So the billing from Chargeover to them, so that their client doesn't see that information. Email personalization. So these are all the emails that come preloaded, except the ones that say customer copy. Those are ones that I would have changed. But this is where you can edit what the customer is seeing from the email templates. And these can be totally customized. If they want to, you know, let's say that their company colors are like a bright orange or something, or red, and they want to change the button to match their company colors, can do that. Once they load a logo, it's automatically going to show their logo in here as well. And along with this, another thing we can touch on too is everything can be white labeled. So for like my St. Paul company here, if I wanted to have like billing.stpaulcompany.com as my URL, and remove the powered by Chargeover, I mean, all of that can be white labeled as well. Jumping back over here, kind of the last thing I'll touch on here is the report center. So these are all the reports that come preloaded within a Chargeover instance. A few popular ones here would be like failed payments. If you want to see a list of all your failed payment notifications, you can filter by a date range. You actually can do this with pretty much all these reports. You can schedule them too. So if I wanted to get this report, let's say every Tuesday and Thursday, because I don't want to look at my failed payments on Fridays at 11 p.m., I could schedule it, and it's just automatically going to email this as an Excel file. So I would have it in my inbox on those days. Another report in here that I think is cool is the recovered payments. So this is going to show you any invoices where the first payment failed, but then due to the dunning and reminder settings in Chargeover, so us resending the invoices or us rerunning the payments, the payment was eventually collected. So I only have one in here as an example, but it's pretty cool looking at some of our customers' accounts, and you can see like thousands of dollars in, you know, recovered payments every month that you know that they would have had to manually send an invoice or a reminder or called the customer. You know, there would have been some sort of manual process to reach out to that customer if it wasn't for Chargeover. Are there any other questions or any questions at all or anything anyone would like to see?
When the
Chris, sorry, I was going to interrupt, and just two other reports to cover here are the upcoming invoices report in that first section.
yeah.
And this is really handy. Yeah, see if you can run that for this range.
Projecting
this
out.
report's really handy because what it'll allow you to do is view a list of all of your subscriptions, the last invoice date and amount, as well as the upcoming date and amount. And that's a really great way to skim all of your invoices before they're going to be going out. And you can look for the differences column. So you can see where discounts might be falling off of customers, or maybe they're upgrading service. So that just gives you a heads up before they're actually charged if they're going to be, increasing service or decreasing service.
And what I wanted to see was the AR aging summary. Cool. And is that something that I can change to like the end, like the date of the end of last month, like April 30th, what the AR aging was then?
Um, there is a way to select the date period, and that may be uh,
I know I'm asking for
a
strange stuff.
detailed report. No, that's actually a common request, because like if you want to look at your AR as of December 31st,
Yeah. There
is
you
one
go.
that we see. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
check
AR
with
aging
the
detail.
team on that. Okay.
Yeah, if I do the detail, then I probably don't have to have a beginning or just make it like years ago and invoice date, but as of whatever. Because I'm always going to recommend, for accountants to do some sort of reconciliation between the app and QBO. And I mean, for me, what I usually do is just run an AR report and make sure they're the same and be like, okay, good, they're the same, move on.
Yeah. And in cases where, I guess a question for you, Kathy, is how do you handle that when a company is using an app that generates invoices and they're also creating additional invoices, like one-off invoices in QuickBooks?
See,
Would there be a discrepancy between those two?
I haven't had that many situations like that. I mean, I feel like
Okay.
usually when you have an invoicing system, you're doing it out of that system.
Yeah.
Um, like I don't really know why. Like my example is I had a client on Harvest and their integration was horrible. And they didn't have any kind of report that I could run as of the end of the month to match it. So I had to go in to the system on that date to run the report exactly what it is. So then I can match it later for my month end work. And there would be like hundreds of errors that I have to go back and fix. So, yeah, their integration is horrible. At least it was several years ago. I can't talk to it now.
Yeah.
But but yeah, it's the same thing I kind of do with Bill.com. I run an AP aging and I compare that to what is in Bill.com. Now there are, situations where there is a difference, and maybe that's what you're talking on the accounts payable side. Sometimes I just do it in QuickBooks versus Bill.com, and I just note that because there's very small like differences,
Right.
and know like it's going to clear up next month, sort of thing.
Yeah. So one thing I was going to throw out there is we do support class tracking
Mm-hmm.
in Chargeover. So it's possible that you could assign all of the invoices and payments that are created in Chargeover to a separate class if you wanted to kind of
Right.
carve out the Chargeover data in QuickBooks and be able to slice and
And then you can
dice it. Maybe
run,
that would
I
work.
think you can run an aging in QBO by class too. So then you would be able to really match it up. At the very least, I think you can do the detail.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, if you're to the point where you're doing invoicing within QBO and in Chargeover, it probably makes sense to have some sort of class because there's some reason why you're separating the two.
Yeah. And we have definitely run across customers who do that. You can create one-time invoices in Chargeover and all of that syncs to QuickBooks. That's handy because you can use any stored payment methods that are
Uh-huh.
in Chargeover for those one-time payments. But yeah, definitely see customers still doing invoicing out of QuickBooks sometimes.
Yeah, I have one client right now where I like this might actually be really beneficial for them. And we've gotten credit card approval from some of the customers, and I have a note on the client to say like it's approved by the credit card, but I'm still using the invoice feature. So I have to manually process the card there instead of like it just doesn't do it for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
That's
like
where
if I
Chargeover kind of brings these all into one
right.
place where you can manage everything and use the actual transaction response to before you create anything. So there's no disconnect.
Exactly. I mean, there's several reasons why I don't use like the automation features in QBO, just because they're great, except for very limited. Like I can't go in and say, if do this, if, but don't if this is the situation or whatever. So because of that, I'm doing all the manual stuff. So, yay. I don't, yeah, this sounds
Quick
nice.
time check here. No, there's a lot of stuff we can cover in Chargeover.
I'd like to see more on like the quotes, what you have there.
Yeah, there's two other areas. Quotes would be great to cover, and then also scheduled payments is another one, which is kind of a completely different way to use Chargeover.
Uh-huh.
You can either do subscriptions, but sometimes if you have customers that are doing more of a payment plan based business where they need to schedule out 5 payments over time.
Yes. I like that. And like what if there's a portal, kind of what the customer would see.
Sure.
I just set up a login for Kathy Co. For the portal, so I could show that too. Cool. So yeah, first let's touch on the quotes. So we're back in Kathy Co. We could click quotes and new quote. And let's add monthly VoIP service. We can leave that as is. Let's say that's good. So once you add however many lines you have, let's maybe add one more thing. We can add an agency fee. So once you have the products that you want in the pricing, the description, you can choose how often they should be billed. So if it's a quote that's just going to be a one-time fee, you can do that. Or you can set it, as you would like a normal subscription. So you could do daily, weekly, every 4 weeks, monthly. Let's do monthly, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. Cool. So once the quote's created, you could, if they got like verbal confirmation that, yep, good, looks, let's move forward. You could always convert it right from Chargeover. You also can email the quote. So it's going to be, again, an email from us, but you can totally customize what it looks like, where the customer will be able to click on the link, view the quote. So Minneapolis company, here's my company information here because this customer or this part is under a different brand. Here's my social media links, my logo, my customer's information. They'd be able to see what they're being billed for. And then they could either reject this quote, which, they would get a notification, or they could accept this quote. By accepting this quote, that's automatically going to convert this quote to a subscription, create the first invoice, which I will pay now, and then obviously run the whole payment too. Perfect. So it's paid. If we go back into Chargeover now and refresh this quote, we'll see the quote was accepted. And right from the quote, you can go directly into the related subscription that would be created. And then from there, you'd be able to view the invoice too.
That's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, so on the 7th of every month, that customer's subscription will generate an invoice, sync that to QuickBooks, take the payment automatically. If it fails, send them a failed payment notification. And then when they do update their payment information, reruns it, syncs all that information to QuickBooks as soon as it's successful. So it's always up to date.
Yep. And then, so now under Catco, you can see it, they have 2 subscriptions set up, lifetime values, balances, next invoices, and they're both are current. You can see the invoices here for this customer as well. Now, when we're on invoices, let's go ahead and create a new invoice. And this is like just a one-off one. So this is not tied to any subscription. And we could do, I'm going to use that setup fee. And let's say instead of $50, we're going to do $500. We can save this. Cool. So now it's going to prompt us. So since we actually have a payment method on file, we could run a payment for this one-time invoice. Or kind of what Ryan was touching on, we can schedule payments to invoices. So we could add lines here of, the amount or percentage amount when it should happen. And then you can have it so if we're just sending an email or running the card, or we can add predefined schedules of, so if it's popular that they're doing like 3 monthly payments starting tomorrow, which is one that comes preloaded. We can select that, and starting tomorrow, it's going to charge 33% the date, and then automatically just run a payment with the card on file. The cool thing about doing this too is when the customer gets the payment receipt with the link to the invoice, or if it's just us emailing the invoice to them, they would always have the option to pay like the remaining balance too. So if it is broken up as 3 separate payments, but I don't know, month 2 was a really good month in that household, they can go ahead and prepay and, have everything settled on their end.
Is there a way to do like a fee that's like a higher amount? You pay now, or you pay 3 payments at an additional rate. Does it make sense?
It wouldn't be like a choice between the two
Uh-huh.
by default. So it would kind of be one or the other if you're
Okay.
going to pay a lump sum or schedule the payments.
Nothing wrong with that.
We can set up like late fees too. So if
Mhm.
someone, I think currently in my account I have it, so when they're 5 days overdue, we're automatically assessing a 10% late fee. You can have multiple late fees set up if you wanted. Yep, so 5 days after it's overdue, I'm going to add a 10% late fee. If I wanted to add more late fees, you can kind of keep having them come on as well. So I did open up my customer portal login page here. So this is what it looks like by default. All of this can be customized though. Let's log in. Hopefully I didn't forget my login info in that 2 seconds. Nope. Cool. So now Kathy's logged in. You can totally customize what information they're seeing here off the bat. But if we click on the subscriptions, you'd be able to see, or the customer would be able to see what subscriptions they have. If they wanted to view their invoices, they can. Oh, she sees that she still owes money on this invoice. She could go in and make a payment here. You can see your payment history. You want to see what payment methods you have on file. You can view those here as well. A thing to note here is I have it set up right now in my customer portal. So my customers can add a credit card or a bank account, but I don't allow them to just delete a payment method. So that way I know for sure that every month I at least have something to try to run a payment against.
Makes sense.
Cool. Jumping back into Chargeover here, just another thing I think we should touch on here too. If we go back to these products and let's find our monthly VoIP service. We actually have hosted sign-up forms too. So where these are popular is if someone wanted to have one of these like embedded on their website, you can do that. So I'm going to use my clean one. So I have multiple different templates set up as hosted sign-up pages that you could use with any of your products. So let's open this up in a new tab. So basically how this would work is the client could embed these links on their website. The customer sees the link. Oh, awesome. That's a great deal. They click the link to sign up. It's going to bring them to the sign up page, and we could do
But you need an email.
oh, yep. That would make sense. Okay, code 2. And I'm going to pay with a credit card again.
Do you have the 411 set up as like the test, like non-processing thing in
Yeah,
the
so
background?
we have like multiple setup that you can use. Some of the other ones, which are kind of cool from like a testing standpoint, is we have other cards that would like decline right away.
Oh,
We have ACH payments that you could use where it would either be approved, declined, or like approved right away, but then like declined, it doesn't settle.
mhm.
So that's kind of a cool thing there too.
Yeah. And for people that don't understand what we're talking about is just having those preset numbers so that you can test how the system works. So you have a better understanding of like, okay, if this happens, what am I going to see?
For sure. I always send those over to people right away as soon as they set up a test environment. Because in my mind, like do all the testing you want, just to get more questions and we can make sure everything's set up right.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. Another thing to notice here on this hosted sign up form too is we do support coupons. So if they wanted to have like a 25% off or something like that, you can make it so they could enter the coupon and sign up that way. So let's go ahead and click the sign up. So from this hosted sign up form, when I entered the information there, it's going to automatically create a subscription. Well, the customer, a subscription, an invoice, and a payment in Chargeover. So if we go to my customers here, you'll see we just created Kathy Code 2. She signed up online. Here's her subscription. Here's her invoice, her payment. And then we store the payment method. So going forward every month, we're just automatically going to run a payment with that card on file. Let's say Kathy called in and the 7th of the month is not a good day for her. She doesn't do her billing on the 7th. You can always adjust the invoice date. So let's say she would rather do it on the 15th every month. We can adjust the invoice date. Now, if we check out the invoice forecast, you'll see that going forward, we're going to invoice Kathy for that $200 and charge her every month on the 15th.
When you do those adjustments, do you ever do like a prorate or something to get you there?
If
That
you
like
were
10-day difference?
upgrading or downgrading a product, you can prorate that way.
Okay.
Or so if we were upgrading a product, we would be able to prorate. If we're just changing the invoice date, we don't prorate that way.
Okay.
Unless you were to add a new product, then you could
Right.
prorate the new line.
Yeah, and then you can make it just go away after
Yep.
one time. Now, another question I have in QBO, there's like delayed charges that can then get attached to invoices later. Do you guys have anything similar to that?
We don't have an exact feature like that. That's on our roadmap for being able to have sort of pending charges.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of like a professional services company, they'll invoice on the 5th of every month and they can sort of just push items to a pending queue that would then get put on a subscription is where we're going with that. But you can go into a subscription and add one-time charges to that would just get billed with the next invoice that comes out.
Okay.
So you can kind of accomplish the same thing by just on the example subscription that's on the screen right now, if you added another product, it could be a one-time charge. It would just get billed once on June 15th and then wouldn't get billed again. On the flip side, you can also do that for discounts as well. So say you want to discount the first 4 months of service for a customer, you can add a discount that only applies for 4 cycles. And then in month 5, it would go away automatically. So in terms of managing any discount processes, you no longer have to either remember to take that off of their invoice manually in the future, and adds a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, it's a good thing to touch on too, Ryan. For discounts, you can have them set up as like a flat amount. So if I wanted to do like a $500 discount or something, I could. Or you can have them set up percentage based as well. One thing that's been really popular with everything that's going on in the world currently is the ability to suspend subscriptions too.
I'm like, has anything been going on?
Yeah. So you can suspend like someone indefinitely, or you can select like an actual date of when it should be suspended to. So if you want, how it works is it's going to basically hold off on that until the selected date, and then it would automatically kick back in and start invoicing. So if I suspended it until like August 15th, basically nothing's going to happen in here. And then on August 15th, it would automatically create the next invoice and run a payment. You also can cancel too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do. Cool.
And did I see at some point there were like integration area?
You would have, so that probably down here.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah. So right now I have Salesforce outbound messages as well as QuickBooks Online connected to my account.
And so you have Avalara that'll help with the sales tax calculations, right?
Correct.
That's definitely our most popular sales tax side of things, especially for software companies that are selling in other states. With all the new requirements and everything, they really help you manage that that process.
Yeah, I got an email from QuickBooks saying that they might, well, if I'm in a place where sales tax is required, they're going to add it to my subscription. I was like, what? So, yeah, I don't think it applies where I am, but okay, we're on there.
On like the tax side too, Zip2 Tax has been pretty popular as well, just because it's like a cheaper option than Avalara.
On the Zaps, what kind of things can you do?
I don't think you'll be able to see that from this page, Chris, but there's kind of a two-way integration there. So you can create zaps that trigger when something happens in Chargeover. So when an invoice is generated, you could let other systems or connect to other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of outgoing messaging from Chargeover, letting them know when subscriptions are canceled or invoices are created or even payments are failed if you needed to wire that up to a spreadsheet or
Slack or something.
Yeah, whatever, you can pretty much dream up, can be done within Zapier. And then you can also push information into Chargeover. So you could set up a new customer, set up a subscription, add a payment, things like that.
Nice. And back on the quotes, can you add like contract language or anything on those?
Yes, there is a terms and conditions section you can add, and those can go on those could get added in line in a quote.
Mm-hmm.
Those can also get added to the subscription page where they enter their payment details. Cool. So they could opt in for auto pay, and then there's also a box they would check for like terms and conditions, and you can either link out to your website from there or include your full terms and conditions or agreement.
Nice. You like all the questions I got?
That's good.
I'm throwing them all out at you. So we have a couple minutes left. I don't know if anyone has any questions that they want to get in last minute. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to show us?
One other thing I think is pretty cool here, because this has been a more so recent addition. But if we go to let's go to our invoices and we'll view all of the invoices I have here. You can actually add and subtract columns. So if I wanted to see taxes in one column, and you also can have custom fields too. So if I had a bunch of custom fields enabled, I could see those as well. But let's say I also want to see subscription number. I can filter like that, and it's going to show me subscription number and if they had taxes or not.
Nice.
And then you can obviously filter down, schedule a report, export it. There's kind of a lot you can do now with built-in functionality to kind of build your own reports here as well.
I like it. Well, I'm not seeing any questions coming in at the moment. So just to wrap it
I
up,
know there's definitely a lot that we sort of covered here, and there's probably even more that we didn't have time to touch on as well. So in terms of if there's any specific questions that anyone would like to hear, definitely reach out to Chargeover directly, and we're always happy to just run through a demo directly, or if this is a potential solution for one of your clients, work through the use case of how it could apply to them. And our team here is absolutely awesome, and they've worked with hundreds of businesses in all sorts of different industries, so they can help with best practices for how to get things set up, help ensure your account before it goes live is set up just right, so that you're not going to get an erroneous email to a customer, and that everything customer facing is going to be spot on.
that's always a good thing. Nothing like sending something out and going, oops, because
Yeah,
I've never done that with any newsletter ever.
certainly at scale too. If you have a large customer base of recurring transactions, everything's got to be right.
Yeah, accidentally charge everyone $1,000 when it was supposed to be 10. That would be
Seen it
bad.
all.
So, well, thank you guys. Is there the best way for them to contact you?
Chargeover.com. You can hit us up on our website or send an email to me, Ryan B at chargeover.com. We also answer our phones too, so give us a call.
You answer the phone?
Sure do.
Wow.
I don't know if Ryan does, but the phone will be answered.
There you go. Well, awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And definitely reach out to Chargeover if you think this is a good fit for any of your clients or yourselves. So I'm going to end it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kathy.
See y'all later.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.